He's good. All right. And our final speaker of the day is ReLeaf's own Victoria Vasquez, not only the head of policy and advocacy, but also an actual tree and park advocate in Sacramento, somebody with long and productive involvement in urban green spaces. So without any further yakking from me, Victoria, take it away.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm tall enough for this. Here, make this happen. I'm also a walker, but I need to do a clicker too. Let's see if I can do them at the same time. That's really hard to follow. A happy Mother's Day, everybody. But I'll echo it. Happy Mother's Day. All right, I am Victoria Vasquez, and I am the Grants and Public Policy Manager for California ReLeaf. I'm also the Chair of the Parks Commission for City of Sacramento. I'm a mother. I'm a Chicana single mother, so I feel like I get extra credit here on Mother's Day. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm also a Girl Scout leader. I sit on a board for a nonprofit that does outdoor youth sports that are non-traditional, like skateboarding. And all of these things in my life that I do come back to trees. I'm a big fan of trees. I like trees in parks. I like trees to sit under while I watch my children skateboard. I like to make sure that my children know how to plant trees, and they do. They're very good tree planters. And I've just been really honored today to be in this room with all of you. Quite often we're sharing emails about reports and receipts and numbers and asking you to sign on to things, but to see you in person and to hear your stories and hear the tenor in your voice, in your passion when you talk about your own projects and when you ask those really good questions of our state agencies and our federal agency here today, I'm very proud of you. I'm glad to walk alongside of you, and I'm glad to plant alongside of you too. So I'm going to give you an update to provide you on our current advocacy efforts here. And this is what we're going to talk about with these little golden shovels here. We're going to talk about how you're painting your golden shovel, how you're shining your golden shovel. And if you're new to us here at California ReLeaf, what is a golden shovel? Right? We're going to get there. We're going to talk a little bit about our climate goals for our state that are changing. We're going to talk about a summary of our tree covery grant and a little bit about the climate bond. So right now in California, we have some changes. Our state has its own climate goals. And quite recently, on April 22nd, the California Natural Resources Agency released some targets. And those specifically call out what are our goals for our state. We have an upcoming redo of the Climate Smart Strategy targets coming up in the fall. And we're going to talk a little bit about our water board regulations that are impending. So I'm going to get real technical with you here as an advocacy person. As called for in Assembly Bill 1757, the California Natural Resources Agency, the California Air Resources Board, and the California Environmental Protection Agency, along with 40 other departments, developed nature-based solutions, climate targets, all the way up through 2045, to contribute to California's goals of achieving carbon neutrality no later than 2045. And that's basically to protect Californians from the climate crisis. So I'm going to show you a little bit of these targets that apply to you and the work that you do. The word afforestation was used quite often, and I love that. The first time they used it, they had to explain what it was, which is the opposite of deforesting is afforesting. So I would like to see that in some of your grant applications. I would like to see afforesting my neighborhood. I want you to use that word, and I want you to know what it means. So the nature-based solutions is a 4.2 million trees goal. And if you notice the definition here, increase large canopied, drought-tolerant trees, meaningful to the community, to prioritize communities with low tree canopy. I love the word large canopied, right? We're talking here about the size of those cutouts and why they're important. Meaningful to the community, I feel that that is a nod to placemaking and cultural importance of trees. So I feel like the relationship that we're having with these agencies, with the stories that I share, that you share with me, is really being heard up on high. Now, I want you to see that there's a number here, 200,000 trees per year up through 2045. And I know that there are some of you in here who are going to ask me that methodology. So for those of you who love word problems, I have brought it to you here. Here you go. If you like a word problem, go ahead and read it. If you don't, I'll explain that. Basically, they take what they consider an average number of trees per acre, and calculate that by the number of acres they've calculated in our state that are within the developed lands, which is where urban forestry lies in this statewide plan. And then they use 2251 there, which calls for California to increase our canopy by 10%, and they come up with this number. They divide it by year. So that's how we get to 200,000 trees per year. And I know that a lot of you are working on that. I know that collectively we can get there, but I think it's very important for you to understand what the state's goals are. So when you are advocating for your number of trees, you can point to something. When someone tells you no, you can say, but did you know that we have goals here in California, and I'm helping to help you achieve that. The nature-based solutions goes one step farther, and it actually assigns tasks to departments. There are, like I said, 40 who have received tasks, but these are the ones that I think are most relevant for this group. CAL FIRE, right? They have a role to play in reaching these nature-based targets. I've bolded a little bit here for you. Increasing access to a broader variety of urban tree and plant species, right? Substantially increasing public awareness of tools. We're doing that here today. Caltrans, this is my favorite one, increase roadside tree planting. Thank you, right? Thank you for including that in these nature-based solutions. And then obviously our State Water Resources Control Board to help implement policies that encourage climate-ready urban landscaping and urban forests. Some of the ones that aren't up here as you read, but I think are worth noting, are that also the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency has a role to evaluate opportunities to align requirements in housing and community development programs and parks. Also, Labor and Workforce Development Agency, they are tasked with developing a workforce development program in partnership with relevant agencies and convening regional roundtables to identify hiring needs, and they specifically call out urban foresters, which I think is great. So again, if you understand what their role is, you can help to put your org in the way to lift up that goal. Another climate goal not listed here will be impending with California Natural Resources Agency. So likely this fall, when they are redoing the Smart Lands Strategy, I'm going to be sending out an email to you all saying, hey, can you please share with me? Because we had a personal invitation to this group today from Amanda Hansen. She is the Deputy Secretary for Climate Change, and her ask for you is to weigh in or identify barriers to implementation and potential solutions. She's looking for those congressional stories like Miranda is. She says this will be extremely helpful to the state team if folks are willing to contribute their experience and expertise. And that's what you have. You are implementing these projects. You have the experience and the expertise. It is your stories that help to shape the changes in these state goals. So our last that we're going to talk about here is water and water regulation. And I think my goal with this slide is to kind of show you just a tiny little snippet of lots and lots and lots of pages of regulation and what it looks like, right? Because when you look at that, you might want to kind of look away. And so did I when I first saw it. So there's lots of redlining, there's lots of equations. This is all about the state of California has impending regulations, and these are for urban water retailers. So the campaign is called Making Conservation a California Way of Life, and it's a new way of managing urban water use. It's a regulatory framework. So this was open for public review, and we shared it out with the network. And I think a lot of people looked at this, much like I did, and thought, there's no way I can weigh in on that because I do not understand this equation. I do not understand when it says a climate-ready tree is assumed to occupy 1 square foot. Because in my mind, I'm thinking in cutouts, I'm thinking in shapes. I'm not thinking that actually these regulations are designed for turf conversion. So they're per acreage, they're per gallon, they have really nothing to do with trees. So as an advocate, what we do is we ask questions. We asked the network, what do you think about this? And a handful of you came back and said exactly what I just said. I don't understand it. I don't know what to say. So this is what we do, and this is what we've done. We develop a relationship. We go back to the water board and we say, please answer all of these questions. And do you know, they ended up asking us more questions. What do you mean? What is a replacement tree? Why would we need more trees than we have now? Because they were not aware of what I just shared with you, which are other agencies' climate goals, right? They're thinking of trees as landscaping. They're thinking of trees by way of non-functional turf. They're not thinking of the benefits of trees that we know to be true. So we asked the questions, we asked the network, and then we sought out more relationships. We developed a relationship with the Regional Water Authority because they speak water. I speak tree, you speak tree, they speak water. We got together, they care about trees, they speak a little tree, right? They speak a little tree enough to care. And they taught me how to speak a little bit of water. And we got together. And as Dr. Escobedo said earlier, right, we need a transdisciplinary conversation. We need the waters and the trees to talk to one another. And we got there. We got there with Tree People, who has a full-time capacity to fund public policy and advocacy in-house. So we got together, we got our partners together, we put together a letter that said, "Dear Water Board." And we went to the Water Board and we testified. And we said, can we please agree upon a handful of things, which are the definition of climate-ready tree, the definition of, is it 1 for 1? Did you understand if it's 1 for 1, that you're going to have a really hard time reporting how many trees were reported in your region, dear urban water retailer? And we had a visceral reaction from the board. They asked us questions. They asked what they didn't know. We asked what we didn't know. And it has prompted a third round of draft revision for impending water regulation. So I think it's really important that we all understand that when we don't understand, we need to ask, we need to find that common ground, and we need to align these departments so that we don't take away water that we actually need to succeed through 2045 by not coming to that conversation on the front end. I want to show you what you can do before this next round comes out. You might not have a full-time in-house policy person. You probably don't. But that doesn't mean that you can't advocate. And this is how you can do it. Figure out in your neighborhood, who are your allies that love trees, that speak water? Find that person in your neighborhood. Who is it? Identify the trees in your community that exist in non-functional turf. These were the questions I asked the Water Control Resources Board that were the most shocking to them. I said, do you know how many of my trees live in non-functional turf? They're in medians, they're in sidewalks, they're outside of the school, not in the play yard, they're on the outside of the school. That was all considered non-functional turf, and they simply didn't know. Right, so figure out a good example in your neighborhood of where do your trees live in non-functional turf that cannot stand to lose their water going forward without detrimental effect. Meet a nearby network member organization and talk about these, because an urban water retailer has a very large reach. This isn't your city, it's not your county, it's a group of counties, right? It's a region. I know we have someone in here who does watershed health, and they can probably help you understand that this is not a competition. You need the network members in your whole region to understand your fight and to join you in your fight. Now, one thing that's going to happen is that these urban water retailers are going to be required in their regulation to do an outward public-facing educational campaign about something like trees. Basically, they get a discount on how much water they have to purchase if they plant trees. It's like an incentivization. We need to change that conversation. We need to change the conversation to understand what Louise was talking about. Where are you at, Louise? There you are, right in front of me. Transaction versus transformation, right? That equation I showed you, that's a transaction. We need a transactional document to reflect a transformation in protection of tree canopy going forward, because saving water is important. One of those reasons is to water our trees, right? We need to make sure that that's working out. So these are things that you can do as advocates. I want to encourage you also as advocates. You know, Ray Trethaway said this morning, and I want to get this just right, that you are all the vision, the voices, and the catalyst of community health. This is a really good example of that. Climate Action Now did these fantastic stake stickers. So here on the right shows their partnerships, their funders, the department, and their art, their handmade local art. It shows their logo, tells you a little bit about the tree, and it shows you exactly what they're doing. That's how they're advocating on a stake sticker. Now, we've just wrapped up our tree recovery grant. I promised you a quick summary here with California ReLeaf. And those stories that I'm reading and those grant reports were from 19 different projects. That total cost is the direct cost and the match cost combined, which would shake out to about $611 per tree. But I'll tell you what, that was not the average for each individual grantee, because some of them had to remove a lot of concrete, especially Climate Action Now, who was in a very, very urban area. I want to give you some hope by showing you that 145 tree species were planted through the tree recovery grant. That's a lot of trees, right, that all meet that criteria. They're all low to moderate use, and they're all happy and thriving. So when you are writing those reports and you're doing things like summing up your projects, even if it's not funded through California ReLeaf, please do share with the network. You all have access to the listserv, and when I hear the barriers that you went through and I hear your successes, I'm able to share them. Now, the May revise of the California budget came out this morning at 11 o'clock while we were all here together. So I have a little different conversation to have about this ask I was going to ask of you. I am under the impression that the administration is not going to prioritize a climate bond that many of you have signed up for. There is hope, obviously. This was the portion of urban forestry that was asked for in a quite a large bond. But now I'm going to change this slide to say, if you're not one of these orgs listed in these pictures, I want you to look around and see who is. These are your allies, right? I want you to find allyship in knowing that over 160 organizations in California asked for a climate bond, have asked for priority, and I want you to expand your network and find your allies. And shine your shovel. Some of you are joining our network today for the very first time, who have enacted your very first project, have gotten maybe your very first no from a school who said, no, you can't have parents on campus to plant your trees. And so I want you to have some hope. I hope that you heard those stories today. And I want you to know that a golden shovel is something that you paint gold to hand to your advocate in your community. It's a photo op shovel. It's something that you hand your city council member, your school board member, right? The neighborhood association president who came to plant with you. You hand them that golden shovel, you show them how important you are and that they are, and you take a picture together, okay? And then when you do your next project, you shine it up and you hand it to the next one. And you collect this golden shovel wall of pictures of all the projects that you've done together. If you are brand new to us today, we do have some advocacy help for you on our website. You can watch a 2023 Learn Over Lunch session that I hosted, where I explained, even if you don't have a staff, because you're an all-volunteer organization, there are some easy ways that you can do advocacy within your own neighborhood. I want to ask you very specifically to learn about your own tree policies in your own neighborhoods and your own ordinances. I want to give a shout out to a network member who's not here, the Meadowview Urban Tree Project, who comes to every single Parks Commission meeting, weighed in on the 20-year plan, and asked specifically the director by name, please plant more trees. Please help us have a maintenance plan for our trees. Please take care of our trees. That's something that you can do. Again, share your barriers and your successes. And I know we're running low on time here, so I'm just going to wrap it up and say great job to all of you for your advocacy this year.
Wow, that was great. Especially that part about water, yeah? Everybody notice that? Everybody pick up on that? Yeah, because we're going to be left high and dry without people's actual involvement in this discussion. So thank you, Victoria, for pointing that out.